Hey there, this is Seth, and in just a few minutes I'm going to be walking you through the way that I finalize all of my documentation when I sell a property. And there's a couple different ways to do this. The first way I'm going to show you here is just with all hard copies, and this is the way that I did things when I first started. It was just the way that made the most sense to me, and it was easiest to comprehend at the time. Nowadays I actually follow almost this exact same model, only I do it all paperlessly. So instead of using these actual hard copies like I'm going to show you, I literally just take these pages and I just scan them in. And I create PDFs, and then I put them in folders that are set up very similar to the way I'm going to show you. So this is probably the easiest way to explain it, so I'm just going to show you this way. I've kind of blacked out some of this information because these are real files, and I'm just, I don't want to give away all these people's info, but when I first create this file, I just put a little mailing label up here, and on this mailing label I'll put the name and address, like the mailing address of the person who I sold the property to, so the end buyer, and also their phone number. So if I ever need to get a hold of them for any reason in the future, I can do that. And then the parcel number of the property, and then the address of it. And this is really just a quick reference guide, so as soon as I pick it up, I know exactly what I'm looking at. And when I flip on the inside here, right here I've got the purchase agreement. So this is the actual contract that I sold as the seller and that they sold as the buyer. And I've also got a copy of the way that they paid me. In this case, they literally just wrote me a check for cash, and that's what this is. If you close with a title company, you might have something like a settlement statement or closing statement or something like that. That's totally fine too. It's just kind of a unique situation here where they paid me cash for them. So, and then moving on, the next tab here is where I keep a copy of the signed, notarized, and recorded deed. And this right here is just a blank quitclaim deed template, but if this was actually a signed, notarized, and recorded deed, you would see not only all of this stuff filled in and notarized, but also up here you'd see usually like a barcode or some kind of information showing that it was recorded in the, where it was recorded with the county. So anyway, but again, this is just a blank template, so not a lot to see. And then behind the deed, we've got, it's called a property transfer affidavit, and this only really has to happen in states that require it, and Michigan, where I live, is one of those states where you have to do it. And it's actually the buyer's problem to do this. However, given that I know most buyers have no idea what they're doing, I do it for them, and then I give them the form, tell them to sign it, and then they send it in. Again, in Michigan, it's called a property transfer affidavit. It goes by different names in different states, but if you're in a state that requires that, a nice thing you can do is to just fill out the form for them and make it as easy as possible. And what I do is I keep a copy of that form, just a copy of the form that I sent them and told them to send in. It's probably overkill, but that's how I do it. So, and then moving on. I like to keep a copy of the ad that I used when I sold the property, and I guess again, it's probably overkill, but to me, it just sort of helps remind me what the property was in case I ever have to dig through this file again. It also reminds me, what I told the public the property was in case there's ever questions about that. You can just kind of see, this is the ad description, pictures. This is literally just printed off from Postlets where I post most of my property listings. So just that kind of thing, but it's just kind of a nice reference to have that. And then lastly over here, this is the disclosure statement that I use, and again, this document's available as part of the mini course if you happen to buy that. And this is, if there's anything you want to keep, it's probably this along with the deed and purchase agreement. But the importance of this, again, as I explained in the separate video, this right here is the buyer's statement that they're basically releasing me of any liability. So if for some odd reason they ever decided to come back and sue me or something like that, it's never happened. I don't expect it to ever happen, but if that extremely unlikely scenario were ever to happen, this would be a very, very helpful document to have in any kind of a courtroom situation. And this is a standard thing that I always have people sign when I'm selling properties. So, and then also here I just keep a tab with the buyer's first and last name, and that's pretty much it. again, in the actual documents that you got access to when you bought this course, there's going to be, not only several different document templates, but also I've created kind of a set of folders that mimics this same kind of structure, where it's called selling documentation, and then within that are separate folders where you would put each of these same exact things. It's just that you would be scanning them in as PDFs and then placing them inside of those folders and naming them the correct thing. So if you decide to go the paperless route, feel free to use that structure. Feel free to tweak it if you don't like it. That's just the way that I handle things. So that is all. Hope that's helpful, and good luck.